Well, hello, I'm Jonathan Westley. I'm the Chief Data Officer of Experian UK, and I'm joined here with Jacqueline de Rojas, who is President Emeritus of techUK. We're here to talk about generative AI. Jacqueline, with your background and your experience, what do you think about generative AI?
For me, it's just a phenomenal opportunity to create new inventions, to build businesses faster, to be more efficient, and I just find it such a big wow factor in terms of scalability, because so much more is possible.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what the future holds, even what's happened in the last year, it's pretty phenomenal where we've come from, and yet we know that it's got a long way to go. The first thing that we probably want to talk about is what's important when you look at generative AI, and probably, I mean, when we talk about generative AI, we automatically think of algorithms and models, but they really only function with good quality data.
Absolutely right. Yeah. The great thing about GenAI, though, is that it does make sense of unorganized data. So you can just have a lot of it and create phenomenal quality of decision making. You do need to have good quality data, but it's also all right if it's a little bit chaotic, because GenAI can make sense of it.
One of the things that employers and companies need to think about is the transition of their organisation and their employee base. And they probably need to think about the skills, the training and the development to take their employees with them on this journey. And they need to recognise that things are transitioning.
Well, this is the man-machine collaboration.
Correct.
So it's not one replacing the other. So I think the collaboration really matters, and that's why Copilot Collaborator really works well.
That's right, and you almost have to create the environment that allows for innovation and creativity and allow the democratization almost of the tools to the individuals, so that it's a bit like riding a bike, isn't it? You start off with stabilizers, you've got to work with your guardrails. When the stabilizers come off, you can do a lot of good things.
Absolutely. You can also do a lot of damage. So not wishing to create a fear factor, but we do absolutely, like with all technology, we need to make sure there are guardrails in place.
Yeah, no, agreed. The problem is, how do I create agility within an organization to be creative and innovative with it, and put some guardrails on, and the guardrails don't compress that agility. But businesses have got to recognise that they've got to have the flexibility within the workforce, within their processes and within their environment to allow the employee base to create. And I think the other thing is, there is an element of measurement that we've got to bring to the table here, in the sense that all of these tools and all of these services and all this creativity can cost money. If it doesn't generate value, and we need to measure that, that's a problem.
The quality of the data that you use removes the amount of checking, or the higher quality the data removes the need for the amount of checking at the other end.
And I think over time, what we will start to see as the data starts to become better on training these models, the outcomes will be better. And even when you get the human checking coming in, they're checking a smaller amount.
Yes.
So then you get efficiencies. There's a thought that this could generate £120 billion of added GDP. Now, that's phenomenal.
Exactly, but if you can do it in a sustainable way as well, then that's an efficient use of resources.
So when we think about agility and flexibility and innovation, it isn't the same for all businesses. It is different for every single business, and every single business has got different data assets, will create different models. So we don't have a standard model as such. We probably need to operate within a framework. Has that been discussed at all globally?
I think it has. You know, one size doesn't fit all, as you suggest. Within that, though, you could get hugely creative businesses and business models. And what's been discussed as a result of all those evolving models, and they're quickly evolving, is that we will need new skill sets. Specifically, as an example, the better quality question that you ask a Gen AI, the better the outcome. People who are really good at sales and have excellent curiosity and consultative skills in discovery. They are brilliant at prompt engineering. You know yourself, the moment you ask a ChatGPT question around anything, you start to refine your question because you get slightly different answers. And so that's just a really good example of how employers are going to have to up their game with their staff to make sure that they stay ahead of where we need to be in these evolving models.
Yeah, we've set up a Generative AI Council, an AI Council. We've also set up a risk council that's working alongside the AI Council, because we want to make sure that when we start to push these capabilities out, it's done so to the point that you were making earlier, without bias, consideration of compliance, those types of things. But we need to move faster in that space. What we don't want to do is set these councils up to slow the process down, but just to create some of those guardrails. But the reality is, this is moving, and it's moving at pace. And if you don't start to look at this and start to think about how generative AI is going to affect your business, there's a high probability you'll get left behind. And when that happens, your business becomes irrelevant. We want to see a creative country, a creative business sector, and I think generative AI is part of that. So embrace it. It's here. It's not going to change. You just got to work out how you deploy it.
Yeah, so get on the bus and realise that actually you can't uninvent it anyway. So enterprise usage of GenAI is one thing. What about small business users? How can they start to really leverage the power of GenAI?
I was looking at an article, and he gave an example of a pizza owner. And he often tries to forecast in his mind what pizzas he needs to prepare on a Friday, because he gets a rush on the Friday. Generative AI, he could use this, looking back over the history of the data that he's got, and create a predictive model, a generative AI model, that might change if it rains. If it's sun shining, does he need to reduce it? But that's where he was indicating that small businesses will be able to create efficiency using generative AI and also serve its customers.
And it's a really nice example. It's really important because in this country, 60% of all jobs are from small businesses, not from large ones.
Yeah, I think for small businesses, it's got to feel in reach, as if this has got to change my business. And I think that small example is a really good example of how this technology will help them.
But it's also, you can use it in even smaller ways than that. So just writing emails to help you create very, very efficient outcomes from quite manual and mundane tasks.
Yeah, when you're having to think about and create something from scratch, often having something that can prompt you that has been used before gives you a great starting place.
Creating contracts, creating marketing templates, all of these things, yes, small businesses can use. It's great.
It is. So Jacqueline, what would be your one piece of closing advice to organisations and businesses?
With regard to generative AI, I would say, well, there's a couple of things. One is stay current in terms of your skill set and your adoption. But secondly, for businesses, I would say, please embrace diversity and inclusion in everything you do, because this is a technology that learns from itself and scales at speed. So if you have one tiny moment of bias, it will be exponentially replicated. So we have to be even more mindful with this technology than ever before. And what that means is we need all of our voices at the table.
Very good advice. Thank you.